The Saturn retrograde of 2025 marks a deeply transformative and karmically significant chapter in the planetary calendar. It is essential to note that these interpretations are based on sidereal or Vedic astrology, which accounts for the approximately 24-degree difference with the tropical zodiac. Beginning on July 13, 2025, Saturn will station retrograde in the watery and mystical sign of Pisces, specifically in the Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, before re-entering Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on October 4th. The retrograde period concludes when Saturn turns direct on November 28, still in Pisces. This transit occurs amid several other powerful astrological shifts, most notably Jupiter's movement from Gemini to exaltation in Cancer on October 18th, and the ongoing Rahu-Ketu transit through Aquarius and Leo, respectively. The interplay between these transits paints a planetary landscape that emphasizes inner purification, karmic completion, and a conscious reevaluation of personal and collective boundaries. Saturn retrograde in Pisces, a sign known for its intuitive, imaginative, and boundaryless nature, challenges our collective understanding of structure, responsibility, and spirituality. Saturn, the great taskmaster, represents rules, discipline, karma, and time. Pisces, on the other hand, governs dreams, empathy, surrender, and the dissolution of ego. This paradoxical blend creates a rare and powerful opportunity for soul work. Saturn's backward motion through Pisces encourages us to revisit spiritual themes, reassess emotional commitments, and dismantle illusions that no longer serve us. This is not a time to aggressively pursue new ambitions, but rather to review our existing spiritual and emotional frameworks. It's a period of going inward, to repair, realign, and rebuild from a place of soulful integrity. What intensifies the depth of this transit is the nakshatra activation. As Saturn turns retrograde in Uttara Bhadrapada, it activates a deeply introspective and spiritually matured energy. Uttara Bhadrapada is ruled by Saturn itself and is symbolized by the back legs of a funeral cot, a powerful image denoting the process of letting go, detachment, and transcending the material world. This star brings themes of enduring hardship with quiet strength, of sacrificing short-term comfort for long-term truth. While Saturn transits here in retrograde motion, expect old karmic patterns to re-emerge, not as punishment, but for healing and release. Fears, insecurities, and attachments buried deep in the subconscious may rise to the surface for final reckoning. As Saturn slips back into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on October 4th, the energy shifts from inner detachment to spiritual intensity. Purva Bhadrapada, ruled by Jupiter, is known for its passionate, reformist, and transformative energy. It carries a certain duality. It can both burn with fierce idealism and erupt with internal chaos. Saturn's retrograde here demands a ruthless questioning of false spiritual narratives, social masks, and half-built structures. This is the time when people may feel sudden disillusionment with systems they once relied upon, whether political, religious, professional, or personal. It is a nakshatra that exposes contradictions and calls for the demolition of false ideologies. Saturn's presence here, especially in retrograde, reinforces that change must come from the inside out. Adding another layer to this intricate planetary pattern is Jupiter, the dispositor of Saturn, while it transits Pisces. From July through mid-October, Jupiter will be in Gemini, a sign that symbolizes communication, curiosity, and information flow. Jupiter in Gemini tends to scatter its energy across too many interests, diluting its focus. As Saturn calls us inward, Jupiter in Gemini might try to distract us with overthinking, overtalking, or indulging in intellectual restlessness. This restlessness will not find true satisfaction until Jupiter moves into Cancer, its exalted sign, on October 18th. Jupiter's entry into Cancer provides an important emotional anchor during the latter part of the Saturn retrograde. It brings in themes of nurturing, protection, emotional wisdom, and healing of the heart. This shift also helps ground the abstract lessons of Saturn into tangible emotional and familial improvements. Meanwhile, Rahu and Ketu, the north and south nodes of the moon, continue their transit through Aquarius and Leo, respectively. Rahu in Aquarius feeds an insatiable desire for technological advancement, societal reform, and futuristic idealism. It amplifies collective thinking, mass movements, and unconventional innovation. Ketu in Leo, on the other hand, strips away ego, pride, and attachment to personal recognition. The axis, working together, forces us to question individual self-importance versus collective evolution. This backdrop significantly influences the Saturn retrograde, as it asks us to detach from ego-driven goals and embrace a more humble, universal path of service and accountability. One of the key themes of this Saturn retrograde in Pisces is the redefinition of boundaries, emotional, spiritual, psychological, and even digital. In a time when the lines between reality and illusion are becoming increasingly blurred, Saturn's retrograde pulls us back toward the necessity of inner structure. Where have we overextended ourselves emotionally? Where are we sacrificing reality in favor of fantasy? Where have we built castles in the sky that need a stronger foundation? These questions may emerge not only in individual lives but also in the global landscape, in politics, media, religion, and social systems. Saturn will not allow superficial solutions anymore. It demands truth, clarity, and spiritual maturity. The final phase, when Saturn stations direct on November 28th, initiates a gradual process of resolution. The internal work done during the retrograde, though slow and often invisible, now begins to show signs of real-world consequence. This might not mean instant rewards, but a quiet sense of emotional clarity, stronger self-discipline, and renewed spiritual grounding. It's like the fog lifting after months of slow inner remodeling. With Jupiter exalted in Cancer by this time and the nodes still challenging ego and idealism, we are better equipped to step forward with a more grounded, emotionally intelligent, and karmically aware perspective. Overall, the Saturn retrograde in Pisces is not a period to fear, but a time to listen deeply, feel truthfully, and restructure purposefully. It is not about flashy progress or worldly gains but about the quieter milestones, letting go of karmic residues, releasing what has expired, and finding peace in the pause. Saturn represents your greatest challenges, fears, transformations, hard work, and focus. Wherever it transits, it inevitably brings changes and challenges tied to the matters of that house or sign. It creates circumstances that demand your attention, effort, and dedication to those areas. Ignoring or neglecting Saturn's influence is not an option. It requires accountability and persistence. To accurately assess the impact of these transits, it is crucial to consider your ascendant and moon signs. The ascendant sign offers insights into the timing of life events, while the moon sign reveals how you will emotionally respond to these changes. Take into account the position of your current Maha-Dasha lord in your birth chart, as it can shed light on how these transits will influence the recurring themes of your current Dasha period. This transit may manifest differently for each individual, and how they navigate this transit will depend on their personal charts. A more precise understanding of the impact of this transit can be gained by examining Saturn's Ashtaka Varga score in Pisces. Keep in mind that the effects of this transit are contingent on Saturn's interaction with the planets in individual birth charts. It's also worth noting that individuals currently experiencing the influence of Saturn's Dasha periods may feel the effects of this transit more intensely. To understand how this transit may affect you based on your zodiac sign and the houses it transits, let's delve into those specifics. For Aries, the Saturn retrograde of 2025 carries immense karmic weight as Saturn, ruler of your 10th house, career, reputation, duty, and 11th house, gains, aspirations, social networks, moves through your 12th house of Pisces. The 12th house is naturally associated with endings, isolation, foreign connections, loss, healing, and liberation. With Saturn turning retrograde on July 13th, in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, then re-entering Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on October 4th, and finally going direct on November 28th, Aries individuals enter a deeply reflective and karmically potent cycle. During this period, your external achievements and ambitions are being measured against your inner alignment, integrity, and spiritual growth. This transit invites you into the quiet chamber of introspection where material and emotional patterns are restructured at a soul level. Saturn in the 12th house is a natural placement for shedding past karmas. Yet for Aries, an action-driven, fiery sign, this retrograde can feel frustrating and disorienting. Your usual momentum may slow down, especially in matters of career, long-term ambitions, and social recognition. Because Saturn rules your 10th and 11th houses, both of which deal with outward progress and material gain, its retrograde in the 12th often brings a pause or even reversal in these areas. You may feel as if your efforts are not bearing fruit, that your name or influence is fading from professional circles, or that recognition is being delayed. Saturn isn't denying success. It's simply redirecting your attention inwards so that when progress resumes, it is more deeply rooted in your truth. This period is ideal for stepping back and evaluating your professional direction. If your career path has become purely transactional or disconnected from your personal values, this retrograde may make you feel deeply dissatisfied. You might consider retreating temporarily, taking a sabbatical, or contemplating a change in direction. Hidden karmas from past actions, especially from your professional life, may now begin to surface. If there have been mistakes, manipulations, or moral compromises in your career, Saturn demands accountability. If you've been ethical and sincere, this may be a time of quiet, invisible karma paying off in the background, though the rewards may not yet be visible. Emotionally, the 12th house is connected to the subconscious. Saturn's retrograde here compels you to confront buried fears, attachments, and unresolved grief. You may feel a need to spend time alone, withdraw from social interactions, or go inward through spiritual or therapeutic work. This is not escapism, it's healing. Saturn in the 12th can often feel lonely, but solitude during this time becomes a sacred space where emotional burdens are processed. Recurring dreams, spiritual insights, or unexpected emotional triggers may show you what needs to be released. Old pain related to authority figures, father issues, professional betrayal, or unfulfilled ambitions may now demand closure. The Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, where Saturn turns retrograde, is associated with deep spiritual endurance, compassion, and the silent acceptance of karmic duty. This star encourages non-reactive strength, the kind that holds firm in storms and doesn't seek immediate results. For Aries, whose instinct is to act first and reflect later, this is a humbling lesson in the power of silence, surrender, and spiritual faith. You are learning that success is not always loud, and growth is not always visible. Some of the most meaningful transformations occur when the world is not watching. When Saturn retrogrades into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on October 4th, the energy intensifies. This nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter and holds a more volatile, transformative energy. It forces change through inner fire. Saturn here will push you to confront what you've been avoiding in the name of ambition. Do your goals nourish your soul? Are you acting in service of something greater? Or merely chasing validation? These questions won't be answered intellectually. They'll arise through emotional discomfort, loss, or sudden realizations that crack your external image. You may choose to give up certain friendships, social affiliations, or worldly ambitions now, not in defeat, but in pursuit of something more spiritually meaningful. Meanwhile, Jupiter, the Lord of Pisces and Saturn's dispositor, is transiting Gemini, your third house, until October 18th. This placement stimulates learning, communication, short travels, and networking. Jupiter here enhances your intellectual curiosity, encouraging you to explore new ideas, write, speak, or reconnect with siblings. Because the third house is also associated with effort and courage, and Jupiter is in a dual air sign, you may struggle with indecision or scattered focus. There's a tug-of-war between the inner retreat Saturn demands and the outer stimulation Jupiter encourages. On October 18th, Jupiter enters Cancer, your fourth house, where it becomes exalted. This marks a significant emotional and spiritual turning point. The fourth house governs emotional peace, home, mother, and inner security. Jupiter here brings warmth, support, and divine grace into your emotional body. While Saturn is stripping away outdated identities and ambitions, Jupiter now nurtures your heart, providing the emotional safety net needed for true transformation. This is a powerful time for reconnecting with family, returning to your roots, or healing maternal karma. It may also bring luck through real estate, vehicles, or spiritual teachers. Jupiter in the fourth blesses you with an inner sanctuary, just when Saturn is demanding you let go of the outer noise. During this period, the Rahu-Ketu axis is transiting Aquarius and Leo, impacting your 11th and 5th houses, respectively. Rahu in the 11th amplifies your hunger for recognition, social success, and material gains, even while Saturn is urging you to let go of ego-based ambitions. This can cause inner tension. You may feel drawn to large networks, social media presence, or popularity, but Saturn in the 12th cautions that not all gain is real, and not all attention is nourishing. Ketu in the 5th indicates a quiet withdrawal from romance, creative expression, or even your children. You may feel creatively blocked or emotionally detached from old passions. Instead of chasing applause, this axis teaches you to align your desires with your dharma. This karmic configuration signals a deep shift. You're being asked to redefine what fulfillment looks like. The joy that once came from applause now must come from peace. The success that once came from hustle must now be rooted in harmony. Even if you feel distant from your goals during this time, know that something deeper is ripening, a new vision for your future that is more sustainable, soulful, and in sync with your evolution. Once Saturn turns direct on November 28th, the heaviness begins to lift, slowly but steadily. You may start to see the subtle fruits of your introspective work. Projects that were stalled begin to regain motion, though likely in a new form. Hidden efforts, especially spiritual practices, therapy, or creative work done in solitude, begin to show results. You feel lighter not because the world has changed, but because you are less attached to controlling it. Overall, the 2025 Saturn retrograde in Pisces is a major spiritual checkpoint for Aries individuals. With your 10th and 11th Lord Saturn moving through the 12th house, you are called to release attachment to external outcomes and instead deepen your relationship with the unseen, your subconscious, your spiritual life, your emotional truth. Saturn will test your ability to surrender, to reflect, and to carry responsibility even in isolation. But those who embrace its lessons emerge not just stronger, but spiritually awakened. For Taurus, the 2025 Saturn retrograde in Pisces brings an important period of transformation, particularly in matters of ambition, social alignment, networking, and long-term vision. Saturn governs your 9th house, luck, dharma, higher wisdom, and 10th house, career, karma, public standing, and is currently moving through your 11th house, a domain that rules over gains, social groups, elder siblings, and the fulfillment of major desires. This is a pivotal area for any sign, but for Taurus, a fixed and practical earth sign, this transit of Saturn retrograde is meant to shake loose outdated aspirations, refine career motivations, and test the authenticity of social relationships. With Saturn retrograde from July 13th, in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, re-entering Purva Bhadrapada on October 4th, and turning direct again on November 28th, this period marks both introspection and restructuring in key areas of your outer growth. Saturn's presence in the 11th house normally promotes slow but stable growth in terms of income from career, expansion of social influence, and meaningful community connections. During its retrograde, Saturn begins to apply pressure inward rather than outward. For Taurus individuals, this may manifest as delays in expected earnings, strained dynamics with professional contacts or friends, or a reassessment of your ambitions. You might find that what once seemed desirable no longer feels satisfying, or that certain goals no longer align with your deeper beliefs. As Saturn rules your 9th house, this suggests that your evolving philosophical or spiritual framework is clashing with older visions of success. This could be a time of rethinking long-term goals and understanding whether they're truly rooted in your dharma, life purpose, or simply projections of external validation. Because the 10th Lord Saturn is involved, career matters are closely tied to this period of redefinition. You may experience professional stagnation, detours, or a need to restructure your long-range plans. Saturn retrograde in the 11th tends to show you which ambitions were built on shaky ground, perhaps based more on ego than integrity, or driven by outdated expectations. This may not necessarily result in loss, but rather recalibration. You might choose to slow down in order to create space for new visions that are more authentic to your current life phase. If you've been relying heavily on external networks or patrons, Saturn may withdraw those supports temporarily so you can discover what you're capable of on your own. The retrograde begins in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, a deeply spiritual star ruled by Saturn itself, known for its quiet wisdom, endurance, and capacity for self-sacrifice. During this phase, you may become more detached from material rewards, as your consciousness begins to focus on the spiritual or moral implications of your ambitions. Elder siblings or mentors may become a source of karmic lessons, either by offering support you've long neglected or pulling away, forcing you to stand on your own. If you've been chasing external accolades without inner alignment, this nakshatra urges you to shift toward goals that are soul-aligned rather than socially prescribed. The shift of Saturn into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on October 4th adds another layer of intensity. This nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter and contains the fire of transformation. It pushes you to confront inner contradictions in your social life and ambitions. You might find yourself reevaluating friendships, asking whether they truly support your growth or merely represent habitual association. If there are connections in your life based on transactional energy, flattery, or mutual dependency rather than shared values, this is the time when Saturn will expose their hollowness. For Taurus, who tends to value loyalty and stability, these revelations may feel painful, but they're ultimately liberating. Real allies will remain, superficial ties will dissolve. Meanwhile, Jupiter, the ruler of Pisces and thus the dispositor of Saturn, is transiting Gemini, your 2nd house, until October 18th. This boosts your focus on finances, speech, and self-worth. You may be thinking more about how you can diversify income sources, or how your values have evolved with time. Jupiter here can also bring expansive ideas about wealth creation, but when Saturn is retrograde in the 11th, it asks that you not act hastily. Avoid get-rich-quick schemes or overconfidence in speculative ventures. The 2nd house also relates to family and food habits, and this transit can bring a desire to speak more or learn to manage communication more effectively. Jupiter's expansive energy is helpful here, but it needs Saturn's caution and grounding to avoid scattering. A significant shift occurs when Jupiter enters Cancer, your 3rd house, on October 18th, where it becomes exalted. This is especially empowering for Taurus individuals. The 3rd house governs communication, courage, skills, short journeys, and efforts, so Jupiter here enhances your confidence in these areas. This combination could lead you to start something new creatively or professionally, such as writing, teaching, launching a course, or taking initiative in a new business. It also helps strengthen your voice, your relationship with siblings, and your ability to advocate for yourself. Jupiter's exaltation empowers you to move forward with grace, but Saturn's ongoing retrograde cautions you to maintain humility and not rush into unfamiliar territory just for applause or gain. Also influencing this period is the Rahu-Ketu axis, transiting through Aquarius, 10th house, and Leo, 4th house. With Rahu in your 10th, the hunger for recognition, authority, and career success is intense. This can tempt you toward shortcuts or superficial advancement. At the same time, Ketu in the 4th brings emotional detachment from your inner world, making it difficult to feel secure, rested, or nurtured. This imbalance between outer striving and inner emotional satisfaction is precisely what Saturn retrograde aims to correct. You might feel driven to push harder professionally, but Saturn holds up a mirror, asking, are your ambitions aligned with your higher principles, or are they just echoes of societal pressure? It's also worth noting that Saturn's retrograde through the 11th house can slow down or limit gains from foreign sources or large organizations. If you've been dependent on corporate alliances, business networks, or even tech platforms for your success, you may face temporary setbacks. This can be a blessing in disguise. You may discover untapped skills or ideas that lead to more self-reliant forms of income. The 9th house rulership of Saturn also means that you could revisit educational pursuits, certifications, or spiritual frameworks that once guided your worldview but now need refinement or completion. Overall, for Taurus individuals, Saturn's retrograde through the 11th house in 2025 is a deep audit of your outer aspirations and inner beliefs. With Saturn governing both your career, 10th, and higher wisdom, 9th, this retrograde asks whether your outer success reflects your inner truth. Social circles, financial goals, and professional ambitions are all being tested, not to punish, but to prepare you for a more authentic version of success. If you honor Saturn's slow, steady lessons during this time, you will emerge with fewer illusions and a firmer grasp of who you are, and what's truly worth striving for. For Gemini, the Saturn retrograde in Pisces marks a deeply transformative and career-defining phase. Saturn, the lord of your 8th and 9th houses, is currently transiting through your 10th house of profession, karma, public life, and reputation. This is one of the most significant placements for Saturn because the 10th house is a key domain of Saturn's influence, where its energy of discipline, hard work, and karmic accountability is most visibly expressed. When Saturn turns retrograde in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, it begins a phase of reflection and reevaluation regarding your public roles, long-term ambitions, and your relationship with authority. And when it slips back into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on October 4th, the intensity of internal pressure deepens, compelling you to face both your ambition and your fears surrounding failure, authority, or purpose. As Saturn governs both the transformative 8th house and the dharmic 9th house for you, its retrograde movement through the 10th house intertwines themes of karmic upheaval and philosophical alignment with your professional journey. Many Gemini individuals may find themselves reassessing the very foundation of their careers during this time. Saturn's backward motion tends to slow external progress, and you may feel like despite all efforts, recognition or stability remains elusive. But this delay is Saturn's deliberate act of refinement, pushing you to examine whether your current professional path truly aligns with your deeper spiritual principles, inherited belief systems, or long-held ideologies. If your career is based on shaky ethical ground or is misaligned with your soul's path, you may be forced to course correct. In the early phase of retrograde in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, Saturn's influence is more introspective and geared toward inner discipline. This is a time to assess your responsibilities and leadership style. You may feel burdened by obligations, weighed down by expectations, or unsure about where your true duties lie. This can bring about a subtle spiritual fatigue, especially for those working in leadership positions, government roles, or professions that involve accountability to the masses. Yet this nakshatra also bestows the wisdom to carry one's burdens with maturity and a quiet dignity. During this time, you might notice karmic echoes from your past, perhaps encountering opportunities or challenges that feel strangely familiar or cyclical. When Saturn retrogrades back into Purva Bhadrapada on October 4th, the energy sharpens and becomes more unrelenting. This nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter but contains the hidden fire of transformation, often bringing intense inner turmoil or moral dilemmas. You may be compelled to make difficult decisions, such as stepping down from a leadership role, withdrawing from toxic work environments, or speaking out against unethical practices. This part of the transit is particularly karmic for those who are in positions of power or are responsible for others' well-being. Any misuse of authority, or complacency in the face of injustice, may now face retribution. A powerful influence during this period is the dispositor of Saturn, Jupiter, which is transiting Gemini, your first house, until October 18th. This gives you both strength and duality. On the one hand, Jupiter in the first house expands your personality, wisdom, and presence. It may bring opportunities, new connections, or an optimistic outlook. But Jupiter in Gemini is in an enemy sign and also mentally restless, causing you to oscillate between ideas, second-guess decisions, or intellectualize emotions. While Saturn retrograde wants you to go inward and stabilize your external commitments, Jupiter in Gemini may push you to explore, experiment, and question everything. This tension between stability and change can create psychological unrest. You may feel stuck in your career while simultaneously desiring liberation or something radically different. But a powerful shift comes when Jupiter enters Cancer on October 18th, its exaltation sign in your second house. This transition is deeply supportive. The second house represents wealth, speech, values, and family lineage. With exalted Jupiter here, you may begin to feel more emotionally secure, and your confidence around material matters grows. It's a good time for reevaluating your financial structure and making grounded plans for future wealth. The focus also shifts toward expressing yourself with more clarity and grace. Jupiter's strength in the second house supports Saturn's scrutiny in the 10th, providing a base of wisdom and emotional maturity that helps you handle professional pressures with more balance and poise. Adding another layer of complexity is the ongoing transit of Rahu in Aquarius, your 9th house, and Ketu in Leo, your 3rd house. Rahu in the 9th stirs an intense craving for spiritual or philosophical truth but can also cause confusion regarding one's beliefs or relationship with gurus and mentors. You may find yourself questioning long-held dogmas or being drawn to unconventional ideologies. This can affect your professional life, especially if your career is closely tied to educational, legal, or spiritual institutions. Rahu may tempt you to take bold or risky professional leaps, especially involving foreign lands, higher education, or publishing. But Saturn's retrograde cautions against reckless actions. It demands that you back your beliefs with patience, research, and discipline. Meanwhile, Ketu in the 3rd house can manifest as a lack of motivation or disinterest in daily routines, sibling relationships, or communication efforts. You may feel like your voice is unheard or that the energy required to assert yourself has diminished. This can have repercussions on how effectively you network or self-promote, which becomes particularly important with Saturn moving through the 10th. This is not the time to push through with ego-driven efforts but to allow a more silent, observant, and spiritually attuned approach to drive your communication style. October becomes a pivotal month as the planetary climate intensifies. With Saturn now in the transformative Purva Bhadrapada, Jupiter exalted in your 2nd house, and the Rahu-Ketu axis activating your Dharma-Karma planes, you are in a crucible of personal and professional growth. Decisions made during this time will have long-lasting implications. You may be offered a new role or responsibility, especially one that demands more ethical leadership or service-oriented vision. Alternatively, you may walk away from professional environments that no longer reflect your truth. Either way, your choices will be heavily karmic and likely irreversible. This is a planetary pruning phase. You're being stripped of illusions and conditioned responses so that you can rise into a higher version of your destiny. By the time Saturn turns direct on November 28th, the dust begins to settle. You may not see instant rewards, but the clarity you gain about your professional path, public responsibilities, and spiritual direction will be priceless. Overall, the 2025 Saturn retrograde in Pisces is a deeply karmic and transformational period for Gemini individuals. You're being called to evolve beyond superficial career ambitions and embrace a path that integrates wisdom, service, and authenticity. It's not about chasing success at any cost. It's about becoming the kind of person who deserves and sustains success. The challenges, delays, or moral dilemmas you face during this time are not obstacles, but stepping stones that lead you to your higher destiny. Trust the process, be willing to course correct, and above all, stay anchored in your truth. For Cancer, Saturn's retrograde journey in 2025 brings with it a powerful period of philosophical reckoning and karmic unraveling. Saturn, ruling over your 7th house, partnerships, marriage, business alliances, and 8th house, deep transformation, hidden matters, shared resources, and longevity, is retrograding through your 9th house of Dharma, higher beliefs, long-distance travel, and spiritual philosophy. The 9th house in Vedic astrology is a pillar of one's life path, indicating blessings from past karmas, relationships with teachers and mentors, and the moral framework that governs decision-making. When Saturn begins its retrograde motion in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, and later slips back into Purva Bhadrapada on October 4th, Cancer individuals enter an important time of introspection, especially about their belief systems, ethics, and life direction. This period is not likely to be light or casual. Saturn retrograde in the 9th often manifests as a crisis of faith or a serious questioning of one's worldview. As the 7th and 8th Lord, Saturn carries the energy of karmic contracts and deep emotional evolution. Its presence in the 9th during retrograde can provoke profound realizations regarding your past relationships, both personal and professional. You might begin to feel disconnected from previously held spiritual beliefs, or dissatisfied with your current educational, professional, or philosophical pursuits. The retrograde compels you to revisit old teachings, mentors, or even foreign experiences, not necessarily to resume them, but to understand what lessons remain incomplete. The Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, where Saturn begins its retrograde, is known for its wisdom-oriented and detached energy. This nakshatra seeks inner depth and is connected to the cosmic waters of dissolution. During this time, you may feel a strong inward pull, perhaps questioning the value systems you've inherited or practiced blindly. You might find yourself withdrawing from social or religious communities or exploring new ones that resonate more deeply with your evolving identity. The search for truth becomes not just intellectual, but spiritual and existential. When Saturn re-enters Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra in October, the energy becomes more urgent, even piercing. This nakshatra governs radical transformations and the desire for spiritual liberation, often through extreme or intense experiences. If you've been avoiding spiritual responsibilities or harboring resentment toward gurus, mentors, or belief systems, this period will force you to face those shadows. Legal matters or academic pursuits may face delays or require revision. Some Cancer individuals may feel the need to travel for pilgrimage, to seek spiritual clarity, or may face separation from mentors or belief institutions. This transit can be especially challenging for those involved in publishing, law, or teaching, as the usual flow of inspiration or recognition may stall, inviting a more humbling path. Throughout this retrograde, Jupiter, the lord of Pisces and dispositor of Saturn, is transiting Gemini, your 12th house, until October 18th. Jupiter in the 12th is highly significant, especially during Saturn's 9th house transit, because both houses deal with spiritual themes, foreign lands, and liberation from the ego. While Jupiter in the 12th is great for internal reflection, spiritual practices, and solitude, it may also contribute to feelings of isolation or confusion. You may be disillusioned with traditional spiritual paths or feel uncertain about your purpose. Foreign connections, whether through people, travel, or past associations, may reemerge, sometimes with unresolved emotional baggage. Financial expenses could rise, particularly for travel, spiritual education, or health-related matters, prompting you to reconsider where and how you invest your time, money, and emotional energy. A key shift arrives on October 18th, when Jupiter enters Cancer, your first house, and its sign of exaltation. This planetary movement is incredibly beneficial and provides a powerful antidote to the heavy, confusing undertones of the Saturn retrograde. As Jupiter graces your first house, your confidence begins to return. You feel more emotionally aligned and spiritually uplifted. Your faith in yourself and in life's larger purpose starts to rebuild. Jupiter here helps you integrate the philosophical confusion brought on by Saturn's scrutiny. You may receive guidance from a wise teacher, or you may begin to trust your own inner compass more deeply. It's also an auspicious time for physical health, mental clarity, and emotional renewal. With Rahu transiting Aquarius, your 8th house, and Ketu in Leo, your 2nd house, the universe is pushing you into deep karmic territory. Rahu in the 8th can trigger obsessions around control, intimacy, joint finances, or esoteric knowledge. It may lure you into secretive or emotionally intense relationships, or open doors to sudden transformations and psychic experiences. This transit also activates hidden fears, anxieties, or vulnerabilities, especially those connected to trust, power, and past traumas. At the same time, Ketu in the 2nd house challenges your attachment to material stability, family traditions, and the value systems you've relied on since childhood. You may feel disconnected from your family or experience a loss of clarity about what truly holds value for you. Together, Rahu and Ketu create a push-pull dynamic between spiritual detachment and emotional intensity, urging you to transcend shallow definitions of security. October becomes a highly charged period for you. With Saturn now in Purva Bhadrapada, Jupiter exalted in your 1st house, and Rahu-Ketu in fixed signs, you stand at a spiritual crossroads. You may make important decisions regarding higher education, foreign opportunities, legal matters, or your philosophical alignment. Some Cancer individuals may leave behind a professional or spiritual identity, and others may find themselves entering a new one, but with much more maturity and accountability. This is a time to listen deeply to the voice within, not the clamor of outer authority. As Saturn turns direct on November 28th, a sense of grounded clarity begins to return. You've now journeyed through doubt, reevaluation, and perhaps even isolation, and come out with stronger spiritual muscles. You may resume previously delayed projects or gain insight into which direction to take next, especially in terms of legal, academic, or international pursuits. Saturn direct in the 9th can finally help solidify your revised belief system and give you the strength to walk your path without needing external validation. Your sense of dharma, your life philosophy, and your long-term spiritual vision will begin to crystallize in a more authentic, stable, and lasting way. Overall, Saturn's retrograde through your 9th house in Pisces is not a casual transit. It is a karmic invitation to realign with your soul's truth. For Cancer individuals, this is a time when your entire worldview may be questioned, dismantled, and rebuilt from the ground up. While the process may feel lonely, disorienting, or even discouraging at times, the inner clarity and spiritual resilience you develop will serve you for years to come. With exalted Jupiter returning to guide your path and Saturn pushing you to grow beyond inherited beliefs, you are stepping into a phase of spiritual adulthood, where truth is no longer just inherited, but directly experienced and embodied. For Leo, the Saturn retrograde of 2025 brings a deeply karmic and transformative journey that unfolds in the area of the 8th house, the house of hidden forces, deep psychological shifts, shared resources, secrecy, and spiritual rebirth. Saturn, ruler of your 6th house, conflict, service, health, and routine, and 7th house, partnerships, marriage, business alliances, begins its retrograde in the water sign Pisces and in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra. This phase initiates a process of intense self-reflection and emotional churning. On October 4th, Saturn moves further back into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, a nakshatra known for its piercing spiritual fire and transformative potential. It will finally station direct on November 28th, but not without having stirred the depths of your psyche, your intimate bonds, and your power dynamics. The 8th house, where this retrograde takes place, is often feared due to its association with endings, crises, and the unseen. But it is also the house of evolution, inheritance, and metaphysical power. When Saturn transits this house, especially in retrograde motion, it digs deep into old karmas, unearthing unresolved fears, secrets, traumas, or unprocessed grief. As it rules both your house of debts and enemies, 6th, and the house of committed relationships, 7th, this retrograde will likely center around the themes of emotional entanglement, control within partnerships, health matters linked to stress or suppressed emotions, and power struggles in both personal and professional areas. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn takes a more spiritualized, introspective tone. This nakshatra urges the native to deal with inner suffering and hidden emotions, often surfacing through experiences of solitude, sacrifice, or surrender. During this phase, many Leo individuals may experience psychological turbulence, deep fears rising without a clear reason, emotional triggers linked to past relationships, or a feeling of being energetically drained. Financially, you may have to address issues related to taxes, loans, joint assets, insurance, or alimony. If you've been avoiding such matters, Saturn will now force you to face them squarely. This is not a time for escapism. It's a time for working through the mess to find your inner resilience. When Saturn shifts into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra in October, the energy becomes far more intense. This nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter but has a highly transformative quality that can feel like being pulled through a crucible. You may find that situations escalate suddenly, a hidden truth emerges in a close relationship, a betrayal surfaces, or you are forced to reevaluate your trust in someone close to you. The 8th house, which represents death and rebirth, doesn't necessarily manifest through physical loss. It often functions through emotional and psychological cycles. You may feel like a part of your identity is dying, particularly one that was attached to control, pride, or dependency. Letting go is not optional during this time. It is a necessity. Importantly, the dispositor of Saturn, Jupiter, is transiting Gemini, your 11th house, until October 18th. This brings a curious mix of energies. The 11th house represents gains, social networks, and long-term desires. Jupiter here expands your ambitions, fuels your dreams, and potentially brings in beneficial connections or ideas. But while Saturn is retrograding through the shadowy 8th house, this expansion may feel either hollow or riddled with doubt. Jupiter in Gemini tends to scatter its energy, and the intellect may overtake emotional clarity. You may have many ideas for progress or desires for recognition, but Saturn demands that you clean up the mess inside first, before seeking rewards outside. This dissonance can cause frustration. Social connections may seem promising but lack depth. You may question whether your goals are truly fulfilling or simply driven by ego. A major shift occurs on October 18th, when Jupiter enters Cancer, your 12th house, and becomes exalted. This is a game changer. The 12th house is the natural domain of spiritual liberation, foreign travel, solitude, rest, and healing. With exalted Jupiter here, a deep spiritual wave washes over you. While Saturn still forces you to navigate the terrain of endings and secrets, Jupiter offers guidance through inner wisdom, grace, and surrender. For Leo individuals, this combination indicates that healing won't come through control or confrontation. It will come through letting go, through trusting divine timing, and through practices that connect you with your higher self. Meditation, retreats, or time spent in solitude can be particularly beneficial now. Your subconscious becomes a source of wisdom rather than fear. Simultaneously, the Rahu-Ketu axis is active in your chart, with Rahu transiting Aquarius, your 7th house, and Ketu in your 1st house, Leo. This alignment heightens the inner and outer relationship dynamic dramatically. Rahu in the 7th inflates your desire for connections, whether in marriage, business, or public alliances. You may feel drawn to intense or fated relationships, even obsessive ones. Yet Ketu in your 1st house makes you feel emotionally withdrawn, unsure of your identity, or disconnected from your usual Leo confidence. The tug-of-war between merging with others and preserving your individuality becomes strong. Add to this Saturn retrograding in the 8th, linked to deep bonds and joint karmas, and the result is a highly volatile emotional environment. During this period, you may become more aware of how much power you give away in relationships, whether through emotional dependency, sexual connection, or financial entanglement. Some Leos may experience literal separations of trust, money, or emotional distance in close partnerships. Others may decide to walk away from toxic dynamics or assert new boundaries. Saturn won't let you bypass these lessons. But the deeper the crisis, the more profound the growth. October, especially after Saturn re-enters Purva Bhadrapada and Jupiter shifts into exaltation, acts as a spiritual reset. It's a month when you may find clarity in chaos. The pain may not completely disappear, but the meaning behind it begins to emerge. You may be drawn to healing practices, whether it's therapy or studying occult sciences. Some Leos may inherit ancestral wisdom or experience spontaneous awakenings related to psychic or intuitive ability. By the time Saturn turns direct on November 28th, the pressure begins to ease, though the work is far from over. You will have gained a more realistic understanding of your relationships, finances, and emotional strengths. Issues around shared assets, inheritance, or trust will now begin to move forward, but only after you've done the inner clearing. Saturn direct in the 8th can bring long-term healing, powerful partnerships based on mutual growth, and greater resilience in the face of future crises. Overall, Saturn's retrograde through Pisces in your 8th house is a karmic gateway for Leo individuals. It brings endings, revelations, and inner storms, but also invites you into a sacred transformation. This is not the time to chase fame, fight for dominance, or resist change. Instead, it's a time to surrender, purge, and reconnect with the truest parts of yourself. The blessings of Jupiter, especially when it enters your 12th house, will guide your way through the darkness. If you allow Saturn to strip away your illusions and if you can walk into the challenges without fear, you will emerge more powerful, more compassionate, and infinitely wiser. For Virgo, the Saturn retrograde period of 2025 initiates a critical phase in your relationships, both personal and professional. Saturn, the lord of your 5th house, intelligence, romance, creativity, children, and 6th house, conflict, health, daily routines, debts, and service, is transiting your 7th house of partnerships, marriage, contracts, and public dealings. Beginning retrograde in Pisces, a sign of intuition, sacrifice, and idealism, Saturn activates the sector of your chart that governs long-term unions and commitments. In Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, the retrograde initially emphasizes maturity, detachment, and spiritual introspection within relationships. Then, on October 4th, Saturn slips back into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, where deeper karmic truths begin to unfold, often dramatically, around emotional bonds, mutual responsibilities, and unmet expectations in your interpersonal dynamics. The 7th house isn't just about love or marriage. For Virgo individuals, it also reflects how you deal with the outer world, including business collaborations, client relations, contracts, and public image. With Saturn, the planetary judge, retrograding here, expect a period of reevaluation and karmic balancing. If you've taken relationships lightly, or if your commitments are built on shaky ground, Saturn will expose their weak links. What was once tolerated may now become intolerable. For some Virgos, this may manifest as a temporary emotional distance in close relationships. For others, it may bring confrontations that force long overdue clarity. Legal matters or unresolved agreements could resurface now, demanding renegotiation or closure. Saturn's dual rulership of the 5th and 6th houses adds nuance to this transit. The 5th house connection brings in the themes of love, self-expression, children, and emotional intelligence, while the 6th house link brings forth themes of conflict, service, and karma. You may find yourself in situations where your emotional expectations clash with real-world duties. A romantic partnership might feel burdensome due to practical incompatibilities, or you may find your creativity constrained by daily responsibilities. For those already in long-term relationships or marriage, there may be a shift in the dynamic, a realization that more structure, emotional maturity, or honest communication is needed. Saturn retrograde doesn't necessarily break relationships, but it reshapes them to be more resilient, often through testing. In Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, Saturn's energy is wise but slow, inviting you to take a step back and review. You may withdraw emotionally to analyze the deeper meaning of your current partnerships. There may be a growing need for solitude or spiritual alignment with your significant other. This nakshatra, while compassionate, also supports detachment when emotional dependence gets too heavy. You might become more aware of how much emotional labor you're doing in your relationships, or where you're avoiding responsibility. Saturn's lessons here are not about punishment but about commitment and truth. If something is not authentic, this period will highlight it. When Saturn regresses into Purva Bhadrapada on October 4th, the dynamic becomes sharper, less forgiving. This nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter but carries an energy of inner burning, a need for purification, even if it comes through chaos. This period may reveal karmic debts within partnerships. Issues related to power imbalance, shared responsibilities, or emotional manipulation may become impossible to ignore. The spiritual undertone of this transit is strong, and those in spiritually misaligned or karmically outdated relationships may be forced to make decisions. If you're in a business alliance, this phase may demand reevaluation of roles, profit sharing, or contractual obligations. You may also become more aware of the public image you're projecting, and how it aligns, or doesn't, with your inner values. At the same time, Jupiter, the Lord of Pisces and dispositor of Saturn, is transiting Gemini, your 10th house, until October 18th. Jupiter here highlights professional expansion, ambitions, public recognition, and the desire to build a meaningful career. Yet with Saturn retrograde in the 7th, you may feel stretched between professional aspirations and personal commitments. While Jupiter brings opportunities for visibility and growth, Saturn may slow things down by burdening you with relational challenges or legal complexities. It's possible that business partnerships formed in the past now come under scrutiny, and you must determine whether they are still mutually beneficial. This dissonance starts to ease after October 18th, when Jupiter enters Cancer, your 11th house, and its sign of exaltation. The energy shifts towards social expansion, genuine friendships, long-term goals, and emotionally fulfilling collaborations. For Virgo individuals, this is a powerful blessing, especially amid the pressure of Saturn's retrograde. Jupiter in the 11th can bring supportive alliances, financial gains, and mentorship that uplift you. It acts as a divine buffer to the tension in your one-on-one relationships, offering you alternative paths to fulfillment. You may meet people who inspire you, help you reconnect with your vision, or offer healing advice that soothes the strain of personal or legal tensions. Overlaying all of this is the Rahu-Ketu axis, with Rahu transiting Aquarius, your 6th house, and Ketu in Leo, your 12th house. This axis brings a karmic push-pull between external service and internal surrender. Rahu in the 6th fuels ambition, work-related conflicts, and a relentless drive to fix or improve your physical reality. This can manifest as health concerns, competition, or an obsessive need to correct flaws in yourself or others. Ketu in the 12th, on the other hand, detaches you from rest, inner peace, and emotional surrender. This can cause burnout or spiritual disconnect. With Saturn retrograding in the 7th, the pressure is on. You're caught between doing too much and feeling disconnected. Relationships may become the field on which these inner battles play out. You might become the one who gives too much in a relationship, attempting to fix the other person, while silently resenting the imbalance. Or you may isolate emotionally, retreating behind walls built from past disappointments. Ketu in the 12th house also increases intuitive sensitivity and dream activity, which, if ignored, can create subconscious blocks in your waking relationships. Saturn's retrograde acts like a karmic mirror. Whatever pattern you've repeated in partnerships, whether enabling, controlling, or avoiding, will now demand examination and change. October is the turning point. With Saturn entering Purva Bhadrapada, Jupiter shifting into exaltation, and the Rahu-Ketu axis continuing to challenge your spiritual and material balance, this period becomes a crucible. You may face important decisions regarding marriage, separation, contracts, or entering a new business partnership. For some Virgo individuals, this could be a time of testing loyalties, both your own and those of others. While this can feel heavy, especially for those with Saturnine placements in their natal charts, the outcome of this period will ultimately align you with more authentic, responsible, and spiritually aligned partnerships. Overall, for Virgo individuals, the 2025 Saturn retrograde in Pisces is a karmic journey through the area of relationships. It pushes you to confront imbalance, restructure emotional or professional bonds, and shed illusions around commitment. This is not a time for superficial bonding, but for deep soul-level alignment. The partnerships you choose, or let go of, during this time will have a lasting impact on your emotional and karmic evolution. Trust the discomfort. It is Saturn's way of preparing you for more enduring, authentic, and sacred forms of connection. For Libra, the Saturn retrograde period in 2025 ushers in a time of deep introspection, karmic adjustments, and health-conscious evolution. Saturn, which governs your 4th house, home, emotional security, inner peace, and 5th house, creativity, children, intellect, romance, is retrograding through your 6th house of conflict, health, service, routines, and enemies. The retrograde begins on July 13th, in Pisces, within the deeply contemplative Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, and shifts back into Purva Bhadrapada on October 4th, marking a significant karmic regression meant to refine and purify aspects of your daily life and mental framework. Saturn turns direct again on November 28th, but not before it has shaken loose the debris of outdated habits, toxic relationships, and hidden resentments. The 6th house is often associated with daily life's grind, managing schedules, dealing with conflicts, handling debts, and maintaining physical well-being. Saturn's presence in this house, especially during retrograde, transforms these everyday concerns into gateways for personal maturity and inner refinement. Saturn here demands order, accountability, and spiritual discipline in all mundane areas. For Libra individuals, this retrograde may surface long-standing health issues that have been ignored or mismanaged. Whether it's lifestyle-related or karmically inherited from emotional stress rooted in the 4th house, which Saturn rules, this period forces you to take your well-being seriously. Preventive health practices, dietary discipline, and regular checkups become more important now than ever before. Emotionally, Saturn's rulership of the 4th house means that your sense of inner peace and emotional anchoring will be tested through 6th house challenges. Issues involving your home life, mother, or emotional stability may begin to surface indirectly, perhaps through conflict with coworkers, increased stress from job responsibilities, or an inability to maintain mental clarity amid increasing obligations. You may feel overwhelmed by responsibilities, yet strangely disconnected from your inner source of strength. This disconnect is Saturn's way of teaching you that true emotional security doesn't come from external comfort. It is built through endurance, clarity, and detachment from chaos. The 5th house rulership adds another dimension to this retrograde. Saturn's connection to creativity, children, and love may be temporarily blocked, suppressed, or called into question. For those with children, there could be concerns related to their education, health, or behavioral patterns. Creative projects may stall, or you may find yourself doubting your own intelligence or originality. Romantically, you may feel disillusioned or emotionally distant, especially if your relationships are more rooted in pleasure than responsibility. This is not a time for escapism or fantasy. It's a period of refinement. Saturn in retrograde insists that your love must have a sense of duty, your intelligence a deeper discipline, and your creativity a defined structure. When Saturn is in Uttara Bhadrapada, this retrograde phase carries a spiritual tone. This nakshatra symbolizes the deep waters of the unconscious and teaches the lesson of bearing life's burdens with grace and detachment. You may feel emotionally heavy, as if the universe is asking you to carry more than your fair share. Yet within this burden lies profound wisdom. Issues like long-standing work conflict, toxic coworkers, or even silent resentment toward clients or colleagues may be pushed into your awareness. Saturn's job is not to eliminate these problems immediately, but to make you strong enough to manage them with patience and poise. But the energy deepens and sharpens once Saturn re-enters Purva Bhadrapada on October 4th. This nakshatra carries the fire of transformation and dissolution. If Uttara Bhadrapada made you carry the weight, Purva demands that you let go of what no longer serves your growth. Here, any misplaced sacrifices, imbalanced workplace dynamics, or persistent self-sabotaging routines come up for dissolution. You may be faced with an internal war between continuing an unhealthy pattern and the painful process of quitting it for good. This could be in your diet, sleep cycle, overcommitment to service, or even relationships that drain your mental peace. Saturn in Purva Bhadrapada will not tolerate hypocrisy. It seeks the truth at all costs. Meanwhile, Jupiter, Pisces' lord and Saturn's dispositor, is transiting Gemini, your 9th house, until October 18th. The 9th house governs higher wisdom, dharma, mentors, and belief systems. Jupiter here encourages intellectual exploration and spiritual questioning. You may be drawn to learn more about wellness, traditions, or esoteric teachings that could aid in your personal healing. Jupiter in Gemini is intellectually restless and sometimes superficial, making it difficult to settle into one belief or practice. You might explore many paths without diving deep into any of them. But with Saturn grinding through the 6th house, the lesson is simple. Knowledge without implementation is of little use. The stress you face in your everyday life will become the very crucible in which your philosophies are tested. A significant shift occurs on October 18th, when Jupiter moves into Cancer, its exaltation sign in your 10th house of career, social status, and karmic purpose. This transition is highly auspicious. As Saturn continues to press on your personal life and routines, Jupiter begins to uplift your professional world. Recognition, new opportunities, or supportive mentors may enter your life. For Libra individuals, this is a powerful phase where inner alignment starts to reflect in outer authority. If you've been silently working hard, this may be when some rewards begin to appear. More importantly, Jupiter in the 10th infuses your work with purpose. You may feel called to careers that heal, guide, or serve others in more meaningful ways. Rahu in Aquarius, your 5th house, inflames desires related to romance, children, speculative ventures, and creative pride. You may find yourself becoming unusually ambitious in love or taking emotional risks for validation. Rahu's obsession with gratification can make you impatient in matters of the heart, or overly idealistic about outcomes. Simultaneously, Ketu in Leo, your 11th house, creates detachment from larger social groups, friendships, and long-term aspirations. You may begin to feel disconnected from your social circle or uncertain about your goals. The pull between wanting immediate emotional satisfaction, Rahu in 5th, and disillusionment with communal rewards, Ketu in 11th, creates a quiet turbulence. Saturn in the 6th mediates this conflict through the principle of seva, selfless service. It teaches you that true fulfillment isn't in indulgence or applause, it's in steady, purposeful work done with clarity and detachment. The final phase begins after Saturn turns direct on November 28th. The fog begins to lift. Your understanding of what burdens are worth carrying and which routines, relationships, or commitments need restructuring becomes clearer. You emerge more grounded, more practical, and with a stronger grip on the details of your life. Overall, the 2025 Saturn retrograde in Pisces is a deeply karmic time for Libra individuals. It shakes the very fabric of your daily life to reconstruct a more purposeful, efficient, and spiritually aligned existence. While the 6th house may seem mundane, Saturn's retrograde there teaches you the sacredness of small actions, how you eat, how you speak, how you serve, and how you respond to adversity. Through the tension of health challenges, emotional fatigue, or work pressure, you are being carved into someone who is resilient, wise, and ready for higher responsibility. As Jupiter blesses your career and Saturn chisels your discipline, you're building the inner foundation required for outer excellence. This is your chance to emerge stronger, not through domination or indulgence, but through devotion to truth, order, and grace under pressure. For Scorpio, the Saturn retrograde period in 2025 initiates a powerful karmic phase centered around emotional intelligence, creative restructuring, romantic reassessment, and parenting responsibilities. Saturn, the ruler of your 3rd house, effort, communication, courage, siblings, and 4th house, home, inner peace, mother, property, is transiting your 5th house of intelligence, creativity, love affairs, children, and spiritual merit. This retrograde begins on July 13th, in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, a deeply introspective and spiritually inclined star. Saturn moves further backward into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on October 4th, increasing the intensity of this karmic introspection. Saturn will finally station direct on November 28th, closing this chapter of inner evolution and external recalibration. The 5th house is an important pillar in the birth chart. It represents the mind's ability to produce ideas, love freely, raise children, and express through creativity. It is also linked to past life karma and speculative ventures. When Saturn, the taskmaster, transits here, especially in retrograde, it often restricts emotional expression and filters joy through the lens of responsibility. As the ruler of your 3rd and 4th houses, Saturn brings karmic themes connected to your inner emotional foundation and the efforts you've made in past months or years to secure emotional stability. This transit is not about short-term pleasure but long-term maturation of your mind, heart, and legacy. During this retrograde, you may begin to feel disconnected from your usual sources of happiness. Activities that once brought you joy might now feel burdensome. Romantic relationships could hit a plateau or come under serious scrutiny. Saturn's retrograde makes you question the foundation of your emotional connections. Are they based on loyalty, responsibility, and respect, or are they driven by fleeting emotion and fantasy? For some Scorpios, this period may highlight emotional immaturity, either in yourself or in your partner. If you're dating, you might suddenly feel disillusioned with surface-level intimacy and crave depth, honesty, and emotional steadiness. The same holds true for your creative output. If you've been pursuing creative or speculative ventures, like trading, investments, or artistic projects, without structure, this retrograde could bring setbacks or delays. These aren't punishments but Saturn's way of making sure your creative actions are rooted in discipline. You may need to go back and revise a project, reassess your financial risks, or take a more methodical approach to developing a skill. The retrograde isn't a block, it's a pause, one that demands refinement. For Scorpio individuals with children, this transit brings up parenting-related concerns. You might find yourself more worried about their well-being, education, or behavior. Alternatively, your relationship with your children may become strained, calling for greater patience and wisdom. Since Saturn rules your 4th house, emotional communication with your family, especially your mother or maternal figures, may also come up for review. Misunderstandings, emotional gaps, or past regrets may resurface. This is a time to listen more than you speak, and to guide with patience rather than force. The influence of Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, where Saturn starts its retrograde, adds a quiet, spiritual layer to this internal transformation. This nakshatra is ruled by Saturn itself and has a connection with detachment, inner renunciation, and wise suffering. During this phase, you may experience a desire to pull back emotionally, to withdraw from drama, and to reflect on your deeper intentions. You may also revisit spiritual practices that had previously brought you peace, such as meditation or journaling. Dreams and subconscious patterns could intensify, offering insight into past karmic connections, especially with romantic partners or children. Once Saturn moves into Purva Bhadrapada on October 4th, the energy becomes sharper, more focused on purification and letting go. This nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter and is associated with transformation through truth. During this phase, you may be compelled to cut ties with relationships, hobbies, or behaviors that no longer align with your evolving self. Romantic illusions may shatter, but what remains will be more real, more sustainable. You could also become more critical of how you spend your leisure time or manage your emotional energy. Saturn in this nakshatra is like a fire. It burns away impurities but leaves behind stronger structures. Adding to the complexity is Jupiter's transit in Gemini, your 8th house, until October 18th. This placement is already quite intense, as the 8th house governs transformation, shared resources, secrets, and psychological depth. Jupiter here expands your urge to understand hidden aspects of life. It can bring spiritual insights, deep healing, or sudden breakthroughs in therapy or emotional recovery. It can also scatter your energy in multiple emotional directions, as Gemini is a dual sign. Combined with Saturn retrograde in the 5th, this makes your inner life highly active. You may uncover hidden fears related to love, legacy, children, or your own worth. Trust becomes a central theme. You may question whether people truly understand or value your inner world. A breath of fresh air arrives when Jupiter enters Cancer, your 9th house, on October 18th. This is a momentous shift, as Jupiter becomes exalted and begins to support your spiritual growth, belief systems, and connection to teachers or mentors. While Saturn continues to reshape your emotional world, Jupiter in the 9th house lifts your gaze toward higher meaning. It helps you interpret your struggles through a philosophical or spiritual lens. You may be drawn to studies, spiritual travels, or mentorship. This transit offers you the grace and wisdom needed to understand Saturn's tests, not as punishment, but as purification. Overlaying this entire process is the Rahu-Ketu axis, with Rahu transiting Aquarius, your 4th house, and Ketu in Leo, your 10th house. This axis creates tension between your private and public lives. Rahu in the 4th increases your desire for emotional control, a perfect home environment, or recognition within your family. Yet it can also make you restless, unsure of what home truly means. You may seek security through material comforts, but find that they don't satisfy you deeply. Meanwhile, Ketu in the 10th detaches you from ambition, social image, and external achievement. You may feel disillusioned with your career or unclear about your long-term goals. These subtle pulls can cause emotional confusion, especially with Saturn retrograding in the 5th, which already tests your heart and desires. Together, these transits create a landscape where you're being asked to go inward and uproot emotional patterns that block your creativity, joy, and romantic openness. This is a spiritual detox. You're not losing pleasure, you're learning how to experience joy from a place of maturity and alignment. You're not abandoning love, you're being asked to commit to love that uplifts rather than depletes. You're not giving up creativity, you're learning how to birth something that lasts, not just something that entertains. By the time Saturn stations direct on November 28th, you will have walked through a valley of emotional restructuring. There may not be fireworks, but there will be clarity. Your sense of what brings you joy, and who deserves access to your emotional world, will become more defined. Creative projects may resume with more structure. Romantic partnerships may either deepen through maturity or be respectfully released. Your relationship with your children could become more grounded, less reactive. And your internal sense of worth, especially as it connects to your ability to love, express, and create, will stand on firmer ground. Overall, the 2025 Saturn retrograde through Pisces in your 5th house is a sacred call to emotional discipline for Scorpio individuals. It dismantles illusions around love, romance, and pleasure so that you can build something more enduring. With the guidance of exalted Jupiter in the 9th and the soul-testing pressure of Rahu and Ketu across your emotional and public axes, you're being reshaped into someone whose joy is not accidental but intentional. This is the time to listen more deeply to your heart, not for what it wants, but for what it truly needs to grow. For Sagittarius, the Saturn Retrograde of 2025 marks a pivotal turning point in your personal and emotional life. Saturn, ruler of your second house, wealth, speech, family values, and third house, courage, communication, siblings, effort, is transiting your fourth house in the sign of Pisces, a domain that governs home, emotional security, mother, land, vehicles, and inner peace. The retrograde begins on July 13th, in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, nudging you into deep reflection about the emotional structures you've built in life. As Saturn reverses into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on October 4th, it intensifies the karmic inquiry, this time unearthing matters long buried in your heart and domestic environment. The fourth house is a sensitive and foundational part of your chart. It reflects your emotional base, your sense of comfort, belonging, and the physical and psychological home you build for yourself. When Saturn transits this zone, especially in retrograde, it puts your inner and outer stability under examination. As ruler of your second and third houses, Saturn is focused on consolidating your emotional roots, fourth, while simultaneously reviewing how your speech, effort, communication, and family karma, second and third, support or hinder that foundation. During this retrograde, you may experience a growing sense of emotional discomfort or instability, perhaps triggered by domestic duties, family responsibilities, or unresolved dynamics with your mother or maternal figures. Saturn's presence here often brings a cleaning up process. If you've been avoiding emotional confrontation at home or have allowed certain unhealthy family patterns to fester, retrograde Saturn demands accountability. This could manifest as a burden of household responsibilities, disputes related to property or real estate, or a deepening emotional distance within your home environment. For some Sagittarius individuals, there might be delays in moving homes, renovating, or buying property. Saturn retrograde doesn't deny progress. It simply ensures you've done the groundwork properly before moving forward. In Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, Saturn takes on a quietly transformative energy. This star deals with inner detachment, silent endurance, and spiritual reflection. During this period, many Sagittarians may feel a heavy emotional atmosphere at home, either due to family demands, the illness or vulnerability of a parent, or the emotional residue of unresolved past events. Saturn's connection to the second house also hints at karmic lessons involving your upbringing, your value system, or even how financial dynamics impact emotional well-being in your family. You might feel compelled to revisit your childhood conditioning or question whether the life you've built so far truly supports your peace of mind. Come October 4th, as Saturn steps back into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, the energy shifts from passive review to active purification. This nakshatra, while ruled by Jupiter, holds the fierce flame of spiritual transformation. It's not content with surface healing. It insists on burning away what no longer serves your soul's progress. Emotional truths that have long been buried may come to light. If there are unresolved issues with family members, ancestral karma, or property-related legal entanglements, they may escalate now, forcing you to take a clear, ethical stance. For some Sagittarius individuals, this could be a time of emotional or physical separation from the homeland, a confrontation with aging parents, or the realization that your definition of home needs to evolve entirely. Amidst all this, Jupiter, your ruling planet and the dispositor of Saturn, is transiting Gemini, your 7th house, until October 18th. This transit throws a spotlight on your one-on-one relationships, marriage, business partnerships, and public dealings. Jupiter here can expand your desire to connect and grow through relationships. Since Gemini is a dual sign, it may also make you restless, uncertain, or prone to overanalyzing emotional decisions. While you may look to partners for support during the emotionally intense Saturn retrograde, don't be surprised if those relationships also go through a phase of evaluation. Your desire to stabilize your emotional foundation might come into conflict with a partner's unpredictability or your own shifting priorities. A powerful turning point arrives when Jupiter enters Cancer, your 8th house, on October 18th, where it becomes exalted. The 8th house governs deep emotional bonding, psychological transformation, joint finances, and the mysteries of life and death. This shift acts like a spiritual lifeline. While Saturn grinds through emotional turbulence in your 4th house, Jupiter begins to illuminate your path to inner healing through surrender and deep introspection. This is a fantastic time for therapy, healing ancestral wounds, or engaging in deep research or occult practices. With exalted Jupiter here, inheritance, insurance, or your partner's financial life may also bring blessings or insights. Emotional transformations now bring lasting results. Rahu in Aquarius, your third house, supercharges your mental energy, communication, and short journeys. You may feel a compelling urge to express, write, network, or learn something new. Rahu here can also bring restlessness, making it hard to stay grounded in any one effort. Ketu in Leo, your ninth house, quietly detaches you from previous belief systems, spiritual teachers, or long-standing ideals. This axis indicates a karmic tension between logic and faith, action and vision, expression and wisdom. Saturn's retrograde in the fourth adds another layer, urging you to reflect on how your emotional foundation is shaped by both your mental conditioning and your deeper philosophical beliefs. These combined forces suggest that for Sagittarius individuals, the second half of 2025 is about rediscovering what truly brings emotional security, not material possessions or external comforts, but a deeply rooted sense of belonging and inner peace. This is a time to heal generational trauma, restructure your idea of family, and clear the emotional clutter that blocks joy. You may feel tested on every front, emotionally by your family, mentally by your own overthinking, and spiritually by karmic patterns unraveling at once. But this testing is the precursor to great clarity and peace. After November 28th, as Saturn stations direct, the fog begins to clear. You may feel a sense of emotional grounding return, and issues involving your home or family may begin to resolve, albeit slowly and with continued effort. Property deals that were stuck may move forward. Emotional estrangements may start to heal. More importantly, your own internal responses to challenges will mature. Saturn's retrograde may have made you feel emotionally isolated, but its direct motion gives you the strength to hold space for others while maintaining your own boundaries. Overall, Saturn's retrograde in Pisces in your fourth house is not just about home and family. It is a deep emotional excavation for Sagittarius individuals. It's about reworking your internal emotional architecture, confronting generational patterns, and redefining what safety and peace mean to you. As Jupiter moves into your transformative 8th house and Rahu and Ketu push you to reconcile intellect with wisdom, you are being guided through a complex but necessary emotional evolution. If you honor the lessons, take responsibility for unresolved emotions, and make conscious choices about your emotional security, this period can become one of the most stabilizing and spiritually enriching phases of your journey. Saturn does not remove joy. It replaces shallow comforts with enduring peace. For Capricorn, the Saturn retrograde of 2025 marks a profound recalibration of your willpower, mental clarity, communication patterns, and how you channel effort toward your goals. Saturn, the ruler of both your first house, self, identity, body, and second house, wealth, values, family, speech, is retrograding through your third house of courage, siblings, skill development, and self-initiative. The retrograde begins on July 13th, in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, a star associated with inner wisdom, sacrifice, and spiritual responsibility. On October 4th, Saturn slips further back into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, intensifying its karmic demands. It resumes direct motion on November 28th, leaving you wiser, sharper, and better equipped to take control of your destiny. The third house is all about action, how you think, express, learn, and confront challenges. It rules short-distance travel, siblings, communication platforms, courage, and even your voice in society. When Saturn, your sign lord, transits this house, especially in retrograde, it causes a temporary inward pull, urging you to rethink how you use your energy and voice in the world. For Capricorn individuals, this transit is not merely about speaking up or being bold. It's about learning how to direct your thoughts and actions with responsibility, restraint, and wisdom. You may experience periods of self-doubt or hesitation in expressing yourself during the retrograde phase, as Saturn pulls back to help you assess the effectiveness of your communication and the motives behind your actions. As the ruler of both the first and second houses, Saturn's retrograde touches on personal identity and how it ties into material stability and family obligations. You may find yourself rethinking your goals, especially if they've been shaped more by social expectations than personal conviction. This period might slow down some of your outward momentum, but not without purpose. It allows you to build stronger foundations behind your decisions. You may reevaluate your relationship with siblings, especially if past issues remain unresolved. Miscommunications or ego clashes could resurface, prompting you to either mend broken ties or finally accept emotional distance with clarity. The Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, where Saturn begins its retrograde, lends a deep spiritual undertone to your mental and communicative processes. This nakshatra compels you to think before you speak, to act with compassion and restraint, and to reconsider any desire to dominate or control through speech. If you've been misusing your words, speaking harshly, too bluntly, or impulsively, Saturn retrograde here demands that you master silence, reflection, and discipline in your expression. For writers, content creators, or professionals who rely heavily on communication, this phase may bring delays or the need to revise work. It also gives you the clarity to create something more powerful, refined, and rooted in purpose. After October 4th, Saturn moves into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, where the energy shifts into a more piercing and purifying mode. This nakshatra deals with truth, transformation, and karmic reckoning. Here, Saturn digs even deeper into your mental framework. You may confront limiting thought patterns, fears of visibility, or the emotional burdens that prevent you from taking bold steps. The third house is your house of willpower. It determines how confidently you approach new ventures or confront competition. During this phase, Saturn may expose areas where you've given in to fear, procrastination, or dependency on others' opinions. Saturn strips away illusions about what it means to be courageous. It teaches that real strength lies in consistency, not in noise. Meanwhile, Jupiter, Lord of Pisces and Saturn's dispositor, is transiting Gemini, your 6th house, until October 18th. This brings focus to your daily routines, health, service, and conflict resolution. Jupiter in the 6th house can create opportunities through work, but it may also increase responsibilities. You might feel torn between the need to serve others and your personal goals. Since Jupiter is also your 12th house lord, there's a spiritual aspect to this service. You are being taught that every effort, even the smallest, has karmic significance. This transit can also inflate health concerns, pushing you to finally address physical or mental issues you've been neglecting. When paired with Saturn's retrograde in the 3rd, this could mean building a disciplined health routine or cutting away time-wasting activities that disturb your focus. A major shift occurs on October 18th, when Jupiter enters Cancer, your 7th house, and becomes exalted. This is a major blessing. The 7th house governs partnerships, contracts, and public dealings. Exalted Jupiter here can bring new supportive partnerships, be it romantic, professional, or spiritual. It acts as a stabilizing force, especially when Saturn is making you question your inner voice and boldness. Jupiter here encourages you to seek wisdom in others, to collaborate, and to allow trusted people to challenge and elevate your thinking. If you've been too isolated or self-reliant, Jupiter in the 7th teaches you to open up without losing your boundaries. For those in committed relationships, this transit may improve communication, healing old rifts, and creating a stronger emotional connection. Rahu in Aquarius, your 2nd house, puts a spotlight on material desires, speech, and family values. You may feel driven to accumulate wealth, impress others through knowledge, or dominate conversations. Rahu's influence here can make you impulsive in speech or lead to discontent about how much you earn or how your family values are perceived. Ketu in Leo, your 8th house, fosters emotional withdrawal from deep, transformative relationships or hidden aspects of life. You may feel an inward detachment from topics like shared resources, intimacy, or spiritual mysteries. The combination suggests that while you may be obsessed with outer security, Rahu in 2nd, you're also subconsciously letting go of the deeper, internal layers of control, Ketu in 8th. This axis, along with Saturn's retrograde, creates an inner tension. Should you push for material success and vocal recognition, or surrender to the deeper transformations taking place? The 3rd house, where Saturn is retrograding, becomes the battleground where this dilemma plays out. You might overthink simple decisions, feel blocked in expressing your deeper thoughts, or hesitate to take initiatives that used to feel easy. These blocks aren't meant to paralyze you. They're Saturn's way of pushing you to slow down and refine your strategy, especially when it comes to speaking, acting, or asserting yourself. After November 28th, when Saturn turns direct, clarity begins to return. You may feel more confident in your actions, more balanced in your speech, and less burdened by internal fears. Projects that were delayed may start to pick up pace. Communication improves. You'll be able to speak from a place of authority and calm, not pressure or anxiety. Relationships with siblings, neighbors, or coworkers could stabilize, especially if you've worked through miscommunications during the retrograde. Overall, the Saturn retrograde of 2025 in Pisces becomes a crucible for Capricorn individuals. It demands refinement of your voice, responsibility in action, and deep introspection about how you express your identity to the world. As ruler of your 1st and 2nd house, Saturn is recalibrating both your self-perception and your external value system. Combined with the shifting energies of Jupiter and the Rahu-Ketu axis, this period will challenge you to mature mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. By the end of this retrograde, you won't just speak or act, you'll know why you do so, and that awareness will give your efforts a new kind of power. Saturn's guidance may be slow and strict, but it leaves you stronger, more focused, and better equipped to pursue your dharma. For Aquarius, the Saturn retrograde cycle of 2025 marks a significant chapter of self-reflection centered around finances, speech, family dynamics, and emotional attachments. Saturn, your sign lord and ruler of the 12th house, loss, isolation, spirituality, and the first house, self, health, identity, is transiting your second house, which governs accumulated wealth, speech, values, food habits, and your immediate family environment. This transit is not merely about money or material stability. It is a deep purification of the relationship between your sense of self-worth and the way you engage with the material and emotional support systems around you. As Saturn moves through your second house in Pisces, it brings attention to the sustainability of your resources. Not only money, but also the emotional resources that sustain your self-esteem and family bonding. Saturn retrograde here can initially feel restrictive, especially when it comes to income flow, savings, or your ability to feel secure through material possessions. It may delay financial gains or prompt unexpected expenses, particularly linked to family, food, or property matters. These challenges are Saturn's way of asking, what is truly valuable? You may be pushed to adopt a more disciplined approach toward budgeting, investing, or managing debt. Saturn being your sign lord means these financial and familial restructurings are directly tied to your self-identity and long-term stability. As the ruler of your 12th house, Saturn also brings the theme of past life karma, spiritual accountability, and emotional surrender. While moving through the second house, these influences manifest as subconscious attachments to money, food, speech, or familial approval. Old patterns, such as emotional eating, overspending to feel secure, or using harsh or defensive speech, may become more apparent. Saturn retrograde will not let these behaviors go unnoticed. You might find yourself biting your tongue more often or facing karmic consequences of words spoken in the past. This transit asks you to refine your speech, slow down your reactions, and bring mindfulness to the vibration of your words. In Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, Saturn operates with quiet intensity. This nakshatra is deeply linked to moksha, liberation, introspection, and the power of silent endurance. During this phase, Aquarius individuals may experience a deep inner shift in how they relate to money, security, and nourishment, not only physical nourishment, but also emotional and spiritual sustenance. Family responsibilities could increase, or you may feel emotionally burdened by the expectations placed upon you by elders or the legacy of your ancestral line. There may be sudden realizations about how much of your self-worth is still unconsciously tied to material accumulation or your family's perception of you. Saturn asks you to loosen those attachments, not to strip you of value, but to teach you how to generate value from within. When Saturn steps into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on October 4th, the energy intensifies. This nakshatra carries the fire of purification. It is fiercely transformative and insists on truth, even if it is uncomfortable. During this phase, you may be compelled to make serious decisions related to money, food habits, or how you support your loved ones. For some Aquarians, this may be the time when financial missteps from the past catch up. For others, it could be about realizing how much emotional suppression exists in your family dynamics. Arguments over inheritance, familial debt, or old wounds around being valued or undervalued by your closest kin may resurface. Saturn's job here is to make you emotionally independent, not indifferent. It trains you to see value as something intrinsic, not something given or withheld by others. Jupiter, the dispositor of Saturn, is transiting Gemini, your 5th house, until October 18th. This placement expands your intellectual curiosity, romantic interests, and creative ideas. Since Gemini is a dual sign, it may scatter your mental energy or make you chase multiple projects without grounding. The 5th house also relates to your children, education, and speculative interests. While Jupiter here encourages exploration, Saturn's retrograde in the second cautions against taking financial risks without due diligence. You may be inclined to invest in something creative, speculative, or child-related, but Saturn will delay returns until you've carefully evaluated the long-term consequences. This planetary dialogue demands a balance between excitement and responsibility, between giving generously and sustaining your own base of resources. A major energetic shift takes place on October 18th, when Jupiter enters Cancer, your 6th house, where it becomes exalted. This move greatly supports Saturn's agenda by improving your capacity to manage responsibilities, tackle conflicts, and build disciplined routines. Jupiter in the 6th house offers divine support in resolving debts, health issues, and work-related stress. For Aquarius individuals, this is a time when spiritual growth comes through service, discipline, and healing. If you've been struggling with food imbalances, emotional eating, or anxiety rooted in scarcity mindset, Jupiter now provides the tools for transformation, be it through holistic health practices, wise mentors, or work that brings meaning. Paired with Saturn in the 2nd house, this becomes a beautiful opportunity to heal not only your body and speech but your deep-rooted beliefs about survival and success. With Rahu in your 1st house, there's a heightened desire to redefine yourself, to stand out, gain independence, and perhaps even rebel against traditional roles or relationship expectations. This inflated sense of self-focus can sometimes blind you to the needs of others, especially partners. Ketu in the 7th makes relationships feel distant, detached, or confusing. You may feel unsure of what you want from your partner, or you may attract partners who are emotionally unavailable or spiritually focused. With Saturn reviewing your speech and Jupiter illuminating health and service, you are being guided to find a more mature balance between who you are and how you show up for others. This Rahu-Saturn combination can also manifest as a pressure to prove your worth through speech, performance, or material acquisition. Saturn retrograde in the 2nd house breaks down this illusion. You are not what you earn. You are not what others think of you. You are what remains when silence replaces chatter, when discipline replaces impulse, and when your words are rooted in truth, not validation seeking. If you embrace this principle, Saturn's rewards will come, not immediately, but with time, in the form of unshakable self-worth and emotional richness. As Saturn turns direct on November 28th, the fog starts lifting. What once felt like a financial burden or emotional constraint may now begin to show its purpose. Delayed payments may clear. Speech becomes more impactful, especially for those in writing, speaking, teaching, or consulting professions. Family matters that had grown tense or confusing may find gradual resolution. Overall, for Aquarius individuals, the 2025 Saturn retrograde in Pisces is a call to redefine value, material, emotional, and spiritual. It tests the foundations of your family connections, the discipline of your speech, and your relationship with resources. Yet it also blesses you with inner strength, emotional independence, and a more refined voice of wisdom. With Jupiter moving into exaltation and Rahu magnifying your desire for self-assertion, you are being shaped into someone whose power doesn't just come from wealth, but from the integrity behind the words you speak, the actions you take, and the responsibilities you uphold. This is not just about money, it's about the voice of your soul becoming steady, clear, and unshakable. For Pisces, the Saturn retrograde of 2025 is a deeply personal and transformative passage, as Saturn, Lord of your 11th house, gains, ambitions, social circles, and 12th house, loss, spirituality, foreign matters, is transiting your 1st house of self, body, personality, and identity. This transit is not light or fleeting. It is karmically significant and emotionally sobering, demanding that you realign your self-perception with the maturity and responsibilities you've been avoiding or postponing. This is a time where your patience, emotional endurance, and self-discipline will be tested and reshaped, so you can emerge with a stronger, more authentic self. When Saturn transits the 1st house, it turns your focus inward. Every part of your external life, relationships, goals, status, starts feeling heavier, more serious, and sometimes burdened. This is because Saturn wants to teach you how to carry yourself with grace and stability, even under pressure. For Pisces individuals, who are naturally emotional, intuitive, and often driven by faith and feeling, Saturn's influence can initially feel like emotional constriction. You may feel emotionally detached from your usual sources of joy, or misunderstood by those around you. Others may start to view you as more serious, or you might voluntarily withdraw from social interaction, seeking solitude or spiritual realignment. Saturn here is polishing your identity, not to dim your inner light, but to help it shine with lasting integrity. Since Saturn is also your 12th lord, its retrograde transit in the 1st house creates a mysterious but intense interaction between your inner and outer selves. The 12th house is the house of retreat, sleep, spirituality, and losses, whereas the 1st house is about self-expression, vitality, and visibility. This duality can cause some confusion during the retrograde. You may feel an inner urge to isolate, to withdraw from worldly pursuits, or to reflect deeply on the path you've chosen. There may be dreams, or moments of existential questioning. Some Pisces individuals may experience a temporary dip in confidence or health, especially if underlying issues have been ignored. This is not a punishment, it's Saturn calling you back into your own body and soul, to take ownership of your energy and direction. Saturn also rules your 11th house, which governs gains, aspirations, long-term visions, and your network. During the retrograde, you may feel disconnected from your ambitions. Projects you were hoping to launch may be delayed, or support from your social circles may dwindle. You could begin questioning your place in society, wondering if your current path truly aligns with your ideals. Saturn wants you to clarify your goals and build structures around them. Superficial ambitions will no longer satisfy. Saturn in retrograde helps you prune the unnecessary so you can focus on that which will endure. Friendships and alliances that are weak may fade during this time. You may find yourself redefining what success means to you, not in terms of recognition, but in terms of contribution and alignment with your deeper purpose. While all of this internal reworking is taking place, Saturn starts its retrograde in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, which is symbolically tied to depth, spirituality, and stoic endurance. This star encourages introspection and renunciation, not necessarily by leaving the world, but by releasing your emotional attachment to outcomes. During this time, your intuitive and spiritual nature will be heightened, but Saturn will demand you grounded in discipline. If you've been neglecting your health, your emotional boundaries, or your physical presence in the world, this nakshatra will push you to make real changes. You may also feel drawn to mystical practices, meditation, or spiritual teachers, but the purpose is not escape. Saturn retrograde here seeks integration of the soul with the world. Once Saturn moves into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on October 4th, the energy shifts from introspective to catalytic. This nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter and is linked to intensity, purification, and visionary action. Saturn in this star asks you to take your inner realizations and begin turning them into action, even if the road ahead looks unclear. Your ability to handle solitude, rejection, or responsibility improves, because now, you're not looking for shortcuts. You're willing to do the work. This is a powerful time to commit to long-term goals, especially those related to health, self-discipline, or spiritual leadership. You may also feel called to serve or lead others from a more grounded space, especially if you've previously avoided the spotlight due to emotional vulnerability. During this period, Jupiter, your chart ruler and Saturn's dispositor, is transiting Gemini, your 4th house, until October 18th. This can create restlessness in your emotional base, with frequent changes or concerns related to home, vehicles, mother, or real estate. Jupiter here expands mental activity and makes you curious about new ideas, but can also scatter your attention. You might want to study something new or move to a different home environment, but Saturn will require you to weigh the practicality of those choices. Emotionally, there can be a disconnect between your thoughts and your inner security. You may need to rebuild a sense of home inside yourself, rather than seeking it externally. On October 18th, Jupiter enters Cancer, your 5th house, where it becomes exalted. This is an enormous blessing. Jupiter in the 5th helps restore optimism, creativity, and spiritual faith. It enhances your intuition, strengthens your connection with children or students, and encourages you to express yourself with more heart. While Saturn is still demanding seriousness and maturity in your self-image, Jupiter in Cancer restores color and warmth to your emotional world. You may find joy in education, spiritual practices, artistic expression, or romantic connections. If you've been feeling emotionally or creatively blocked, this shift provides the clarity and grace you've been waiting for. Rahu in the 12th increases your desire to withdraw, travel abroad, or immerse in spiritual or mystical practices. But it can also amplify escapism, isolation, or addiction if not grounded. Ketu in the 6th, meanwhile, can reduce your interest in daily duties, health discipline, or routine work, leading to potential neglect of your body or responsibilities. When combined with Saturn in the 1st, this can create a paradox: the desire to retreat, while simultaneously needing to show up and mature. Balancing the two is key. Learn to rest, not quit. Accept solitude as healing, not punishment. Face your duties, not with resentment, but as spiritual service. As Saturn turns direct on November 28th, you begin to emerge from the deep inner chrysalis. You may not immediately feel light again, but you will feel grounded, stronger, and more focused. Identity issues that plagued you may start to dissolve. Confidence rebuilds, but this time it's not based on validation, but on lived truth. Physical health may stabilize, especially if you've been diligent about discipline. The fog of emotional doubt starts lifting. You'll notice that others begin to take you more seriously, not because you're louder, but because you've been refined. Quiet power replaces scattered ambition. Overall, the 2025 Saturn retrograde in Pisces is a rite of passage for Pisces individuals. It calls you to grow up, internally and externally, to become more self-aware, responsible, and emotionally sovereign. The retrograde may feel isolating at times, especially with Rahu in your 12th and Jupiter stirring your emotional foundations. Yet the deeper purpose is liberation, not from the world, but from the illusions you've carried about who you are. You are being asked to anchor your sensitivity in strength, your dreams in discipline, and your intuition in wisdom. By the end of this transit, the person emerging will not only feel more stable, but will also carry a kind of spiritual gravity that others are drawn to. As we conclude this episode, please remember that these insights are based on Sidereal or Vedic astrology, which accounts for the approximately 24-degree difference from the tropical zodiac. Individual predictions may vary, as every birth chart is unique. The influence of dasha periods and natal planetary placements can shape transits differently, both positively and negatively. It's essential to consider your own birth chart when applying these general predictions to your personal circumstances. If you'd like personalized predictions or have questions about your astrological chart, feel free to reach out to us. Stay tuned for more astrological updates. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more insightful astrology content. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to sharing more astrological wisdom with you in the future. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep shining bright.